And then the dry waste, whichever is collected has been generated, has been collected. That is 1,420.41 TPD. And the waste processed for dry waste is very bad. From 1,420.41 TPD, there is only 335.78 TPD which has been processed. So from that we can understand that dry waste is one of the main problems which we will be affected out here in Aizawl as well. This is because being in a bit remote area, we do not get a proper agencies for the who would like to come and deal with such process, because when you talk about waste processing also, it's not as easy as it seems, because they have to have a quantity that big enough to gain some monetary gain. So that's another fact. Even though we as a small population, we have this much of waste, but it's very difficult to get an agent who will come and work in terms of these waste, that amount of waste. So now moving ahead, then I would like to say that as much as the degradation is there, the municipal as such, we're trying as much as we could to progress our waste management. But here, as our ma'am has given the lecture earlier, the manpower is somewhat we are lacking as well, and also the resource in terms of finance. So the management of a solid waste is not very easy. It consumes lots of human and the financial is very high. So that's what I would like to put.
My name is Dr. Rebecca Larindiki. I'm from Government Mizoram Law College. I'm an assistant professor. Today I feel very privileged to sit as one of the panel members, though I'm not an expert in environmental law. From the lecture which we have listened and discussed, we see that the environment problem is very much today, as we see the many instances where the speaker talks about the instances of Delhi, where the AQI, where we say the severe AQI falls between 401 to 500, but according to my research last night, the AQI during this last year, December, it was around 999, which is very much alarming. So that triggers, it led me to think that the right to breathe a fresh air, right to life, which we say under Article 21, is very much, it needs to recede in the light of the least situation. But also we see that in Mizoram also into 2023, in the New Year's Eve, the AQI rose to 500, which is also very alarming. So we need to have a good environmental consciousness, what is happening around us. And from the lecture, we see that man-made activities, though there are natural activities which leads to pollution, but the other problem, which is the man-made activities, very much add to the pollution. And one of the instances, as I discussed Delhi, the reason of this pollution is because of the stubble burning and the vehicular emission, the air pollution by the vehicles. So this is very alarming. So apart from that, the speaker also discussed about the environmental consciousness, where we can where to draw a line between development and environment. When it comes to environment and development, where to draw a balance. So we talk about this sustainable development, where meeting the needs of the present without compromising the needs of the future. So that is very much important. And I would like to cite the case of this Ari Forest case in 2019, where there is a conflict in Mumbai between environmental protection and urban infrastructure, where there is a construction of this metro car shed has been made, and protests began in 2019 after thousands of trees were cut, with activists arguing it destroys a vital green lung and harms local wildlife, while the government maintains it is necessary for public transport development. Here also applying the sustainable development principle, the Supreme Court held that it says that the development should carry on, because what was once a no development zone has changed to a development zone. Therefore, the development of constructing this metro shed should carry on. But at the same time, they should look to the environmental aspect, where they have to follow all the norms which has been laid down, and they have to have a detailed plan for compensatory afforestation, including the number of trees and clear timeline to be submitted by the municipal corporation. This is where we can draw the line in checking the environmental pollution.
My name is Jayalal Indian, Assistant Engineer UTNPA. So I would like to bring the point human activities leading to the degradations of environment and pollutions of the environment. With regards to the solid waste and used water. And this our department, UTNPA, is dealing with solid waste management and used water on behalf of the state government. So we are, you know how this our used water pollutes our rivers. Even though we are having septic tank and soap pit for this our toilet, and releasing our grey water coming from this kitchen, bathrooms, discharging to the open drains. Yeah, so of course it's directly contaminated our streams. But our black waters, this even though we are discharging on the soil through this soap pit, it is assumed and treated, contaminated the underground directly. So our used water, suppose in Aizawl, 70 to 90 LPCD is our daily consumption per capita. And then almost all the 90 liters will contaminate our water. So in Aizawl there is only 110 MLD at Jite. So the consumptions of the daily, our consumption is, suppose if we are 5 lakhs city population, and then the water per capita consumption is 90. 90 into 5 means 4 crore 50 liters per day we consume. Then it will 80 to 90% will contaminate our rivers, our underground waters. So only 10%, that actually is in Jite side, even though the design capacity is 10 MLD, but the inflow is only 1 MLD. Because of the rejections of the designed area, means like Zarkot, Electric Way and others area, locality, don't want to connect the sewerage lines. So that the design capacity could not be achieved. Only we are treating only 1 MLD. So the government intervention is in the western side here. This is a Dukwal area, Dintar. This is a new sewerage treatment plant will be established. So I'm talking about the present and the future in mix. So regarding this, and we are trying to cover all the district headquarters and other district urban towns across Mizoram, giving around 27 towns to be covered by the used water treatment plant. And this fecal sludge treatment plant, FSTP, here in Mizoram we don't have at least a single FSTP yet. That is a sludge disposal site, and it will be treated at the site, the plant, and the water will be released safely to the stream or river. So the department intervention is it will be covering all the 27 district headquarters and towns in the near future. We are preparing the DPR for those towns, and due to this insufficient fund at the time, we don't have a sufficient fund, so we will recover around 30 households in the town or district headquarters. And regarding this solid waste management, the main thing is plastic waste. The plastic waste contaminated largely the environment. So this, we are managing a center. We are establishing solid waste management center and segregation centers in this district headquarters and notified towns, so that in the near future we can take care of our waste management properly. At present, it is very inadequate, but after 1 year, all the centers should be functioning properly, and all the waste, generally plastic waste, should be managed properly. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I would like to thank all the panel members, and just to sum up the views that we presented here. So as both the madams have also stressed upon, the cooperation of the public is very essential to implement any of these schemes or the programs. Secondly, awareness amongst the public about the segregation, and also when we were also in school, college, we learned about the 3 R's: reduce, recycle, and reduce your consumption, recycle, and reuse. And especially about single-use plastic. So this is something which needs to be done through awareness in colleges, in schools. Like in Delhi, the anti-cracker campaign has been successful to some extent because of the targeting of school children and college students. So again, this is something which we can implement here. And just one point about ma'am, about finding the balance between development and technology, development and environmental protection. So here I would just like to give the example of Delhi Metro. Delhi Metro is the world's first railway project to be registered under the UN's Clean Development Mechanism. Because the braking system that they are using, they are reducing their carbon emissions, and they are being able to sell their carbon credits. So again, technology is something which we need to factor in when we think about environmental protection. And with this, we would like to please end the first technical session. Thank you all. Thank you to all the members. And thank you to all the esteemed guests. Thank you.
Where the various countries, they discuss about environment. And the Stockholm Convention, it was definitely the starting point of environmental legislations in various countries in the world. So in that conference, 113 countries participated, and it led to the creation of United Nations Environment Programme, UNEP. What we all know, UNEP, it is governing the environmental management programs. So that was the starting. UNEP was set up in the year 1972 itself, and that was the beginning of modern environmental diplomacy. Late Indira Gandhi was the Prime Minister that time. She was the head of the country. She was the only participant from a developing country to represent the global conference. And her speech is historic, not only for India, it is on to the entire world, and it is well remembered for her. Because it was the speech in which integration of development with environment and global environmental debate was made. It was not the pure technical speech, but hers was deeply philosophical. She referred to Indian civilization, respect for nature, ancient tradition of ecological balance, the ethical responsibility of humanity towards future generation, and she framed environmental protection not merely as a regulation but a moral obligation. The theme of the convention was One Earth. So she quoted, but my deep interest in this, our only earth, was not for itself but as a fit home for man. How we can make the one earth, the only earth fit for the mankind. And that time, when the regulations, environmental regulations were supposed to be framed, so there was a scenario that highly developed countries, they were already made use of their resources, they were industrialized, but developing countries like India were not industrialized. And I try to read the quote, the environmental problems of the developing countries are not the side effects of excessive industrialization, but reflect the inadequacy of the development. The rich countries may look upon development as the cause of environmental destruction, but to us, to the developing countries like India, it is one of the primary means of improving the environment for living or providing food, water, sanitation and shelter, of making the deserts green and the mountains habitable. She also quoted, how can we speak to those who live in villages and in slums about keeping the oceans, the rivers and the air clean when their own lives are contaminated at the source? So that time, back in 56, 58 years, India was not developed, industrial situation was not that good, and it was in the starting point. So, being the representative developing nation, she made the point that our industrialization is a must. We cannot talk to the people who are living in slums and villages to talk about the cleanliness of rivers, oceans, etc. Even though our industrial development is in its infancy and its most difficult stage, we are taking various steps to deal with the incipient environmental imbalances. The more so because of our concern for the human being. A species which is also embedded in poverty is threatened by malnutrition and disease, in weakness by war, in richness by the pollution brought about by his own prosperity. And she told poverty is the greatest polluter. That time poverty, the stage of poverty was in a very bad state. So she was arguing before the entire world that we cannot, the rules enforced for the developed countries cannot be the same for the developing countries. Though we are inherited our great values, and from ethical values also we are protecting the environment, but it cannot be enforced. She told poor communities depend directly on forest, soil, rivers, biomass for survival. Lack of sanitation, housing, infrastructure leads to pollution. Without economic development, environmental protection becomes unrealistic. So she shifted the debate from environmental versus development and environment through equitable development. Now we talk about the sustainable development. We all know sustainable development, but let Srimati Indira Gandhi, she delivered the speech where the entire world now getting the idea of sustainable development. She talked about sustainable development at that time itself. She told boldly that most pollution originated in industrialized countries during that time. The global north has already consumed this proportionate ecological space. Developing countries require financial and technical support for the industrialization and in the same time for environmental protection. So her speech laid the intellectual foundation for climate equity debates that continues today. This is what in 1972 itself, Srimati Gandhi articulated what we now call sustainable development. By sustainable development, harmony between humanity and nature, protection of biodiversity, intergeneration responsibility and balanced economic growth. She warned that unregulated industrial growth could threaten planetary stability. Unregulated industrial growth, a concern that resonates strongly in today's climate crisis. She was telling that if developed countries already took major share of the resources and they cannot enforce strictly, that developing countries also can take the measures equally. So she was asking for concessions that the developing countries, they will, while going for industrialization, while in the development process, they will definitely do the environmental protection, but it cannot be as strict as the applicable for the developed countries. So that space became the central to global South environmental diplomacy. That was the starting. That Stockholm conference it talked about because till that time there was no institution that who will govern the environmental management in the world. So soon after the convention, the United Nations Environment Program (UNEP) it was institutionalized, and after that space, India was one of the first country in the world to frame an act for environmental protection. And in 1974, the Water Act, what we know now as Water Act, that time it was Water Prevention and Control of Pollution Act, 1974 was enacted in the March 74. This act is a comprehensive legislation institutionalizing simultaneously the regulatory agencies for controlling water pollution. The pollution, under the provision of the Water Act, that first came the Central Pollution Control Board, and subsequently State Pollution Control Board or Pollution Control Committees were framed in all the states and pollution in the Union territories. So you can see how in 74 itself that India took the idea, it framed the Water Act. And main purpose of the Water Act is to maintain cleanliness of the water in India. So how we should keep the water clean. So Water Act came first, then in September 74 itself, Central Pollution Control Board, that time it was known as Central Board for Prevention and Control of Water Pollution, it was constituted. State boards came subsequently. So here in Mizoram, it came in later in 80s, but in Assam and other states, large states, in Assam it was constituted in 1975 itself. Pollution Control Board Assam was there in 1975, just after the formation of the CPCB. The Water Act took the water pollution issues simultaneously. In 1981, the Air Prevention and Control of Pollution Act was framed, it was enacted. After enactment of the Air Act, it was renamed as, Central Board was renamed as Board for Prevention and Control of Water and Air Pollution. Then as our Chief Justice Sir told, Honorable Chief Justice Sir highlighted, after the Bhopal tragedy, that India saw that the provisions of the Water Act, Air Act, which take with issues of relating to water and air pollution was not enough. So they framed the Environmental Protection Act. And this is the act now, under the provisions of this act, various rules are framed by the central government and which are implemented. Like I told, there is a noise pollution control rule also. Like that is framed under the Environmental Protection Act. And this act is known as the Umbrella Act for the environmental protection for India. Because under this Umbrella Act, various rules are framed. Similarly, under the provisions of the EPA, Environmental Protection Act, these various rules, I just, this is only 6 of them I have highlighted. These are related with the waste management. These rules are being framed. Now the plastic waste rules, e-waste rules, and these are these problems, e-waste problem, plastic waste problem, hazardous waste issues. These are major environmental issues towards pollution. So, with under these rules, various provisions are given. How we will manage the waste, different type of waste. Like that, there are now in future you will see there will be like noise pollution, there will be light pollution also. Central government is working on that. We need, if we use more light than what is required, it harms us and it is considered as a pollution. And now this light pollution also being studied, and it is definitely we will see in a year or two there will be light pollution rules. Then NGT, Honorable National Green Tribunal, was this act was there in 2010. It was formed, and it was formed, and now NGT, it is dealing with the various environmental issues. It is at par with the High Court in most of the cases. In the hierarchy system also it is said it should be equal, but in many cases that parties generally they have to, the High Court itself they refer the cases to the NGT to deal with the environmental issues. And that why NGT was constituted? To deal with the environmental cases, because so many cases are, number of cases are increasing day by day. And at present, being in Central Pollution Control Board, we are dealing with almost 1700 cases in NGT. It is from various pockets in the country. So many issues, some cases are common to the entire country, some are site specific, and we are dealing with this. So we all know what is environmental degradation. We can see around us how it is degraded. But good thing is that there are measures how we can restore the environment. And you may be knowing also about Miyawaki method of plantation. Miyawaki plantation is already earned a good name, and it is known across the world. So I'll just highlight how one degraded land can be restored. So he is Professor Emeritus Akira Miyawaki, who expired in 2021 at the age of 92. But he is the person who could bring popularity for the method. He designed the method, he designed the technique, and it is implemented. You can it is implemented in various parts in the world, including India. And it is about man-made forest. How a forest can be planted. It is not that planting a tree, but planting a forest. So I just saw the photographs. This is before and after plantation. These photographs are in Japan only, because this method Miyawaki is from Japan and he developed this technique. See, for various anthropogenic activities, that deforestation is there. So I need, but we can afforest it with this afforestation technique. This is another example. These are man-made forests. These are planted forests. In very high slope, up to 78 degree, 80 degree, it is being implemented. So why I am showing to you these photographs? Because otherwise you cannot see, you cannot point it out that these are planted forests. A forest can be planted. And this is why this Miyawaki method, it has gained popularity for urban afforestation. In many cities in India also, that urban afforestation is being made. And with this project, lots of waste materials are also being used, because all the recyclable materials waste, there are no takers in Japan. So various types of waste. They are used for this plantation method, and over the waste itself they make the plantation. Reuse of debris, and they are creating a great forest wall because it is telling it is a very long kilometers by kilometer forest wall, which it is planted with the donation from the people, Japanese people, because it is told and it is shown that also it can even reduce the force of tsunami to a great extent. There is some problems with the slide because I was one of the. I feel myself lucky. I was with Professor Emeritus Miyawaki for a training period of 55 days, and that time he himself was there. He was a trainer, and that program was on rehabilitation of degraded land in Asia and Africa, and program was sponsored by the JICA. So. This slide is showing that how site is prepared for a plantation. So it is loosening the earth, then you are giving some barrier, that is also again organic material like bamboo and all. After preparing the soil bed, the plantation is done. Okay, this is all about preparation of the soil bed. The left photograph is after the plantation, but lower below you can see that how the site is prepared. Any given slope that can be restored. And this is as I told, it's a very dense plantation. So all native saplings are used, all the native trees. And it is planted 2 to 3 saplings per square meter. That is interesting. 2 to 3 saplings per square meter, you mix 40-50 species of saplings, different types of native trees. So in this technique, like imported species like acacia, eucalyptus, even the bull mohurs, these are totally discouraged. We should, suppose we want to make a plantation of our Aizawl, somewhere in a pocket in Aizawl, we have to see that what are the local species here. So in Japan, it's a developed country, they are having the phytosociological study, they are having these maps showing the vegetation in different areas, natural vegetation. Here we don't have that much, but we have the idea from the forest department, we can get the idea what are the local species. Only selecting the local species, we can make the plantation in a very dense way, and there we have seen the plantation festival they organize. All across all stakeholders from the society they take part, and they make the plantation in a very dense way. And the nearer species is different. Your neighbor species is different. Say 40 species, 50 species, we mix up, totally mix up, and we make the plantation. And interesting, what we have seen and what we were taught also, when we make the species together, when we plant the species together in a dense way, all the species will grow initially in a very faster way. It is not like the survival of the fittest initially, but say after maybe 7, 8 years or 10 years, few species may not survive, but initial growing of the plants are very high. They grow faster. This is how plantation festivals are being organized. And after the plantation, they make mulching. Mulching with the rice straw they import from India and China. For that mulching, they import the rice straw even. This is how the phytosociological maps are being made. They have lots of nurseries with the local species. And this is how they do the mulching. With the mulching, what happens? In Japan, it was mostly volcanic soil. It is not fertile. They manufacture bokashi, that compost, and they spray over it, and after plantation they do the mulching with the dry straw or other material, compostable material, and it will immediately retain the moisture. It will restrict soil erosion, etc. So that mulching material also finally will become compost. And this is totally maintenance-free plantation, you can say. Even in a small circle, small rotary around the office also they make the plantation in this way. In very huge slope in a limestone mining area they are doing the plantation, and that survival rate is reported more than 90%. So after coming in from there in 2011, I tried in a similar way in some industrial premises in Assam. So where the land preparation, everything is being made, and you can see how the trees are grown. This is a picture after 4-5 years in the same location. Similarly with the plantation, and here in Assam or in Meghalaya, or you can say in entire Northeast, that plantation is so that survival rate is much better, it grows faster, so we can definitely create a forest. This is the same area where we planted, and finally it became like this. So all around the whole roads it is being made, and the left hand side there is a colony for the workers, and they are now escaped from noise pollution or dust pollution because of this forest. You can see how dense they are grown. It is in a picture of that forest we have created. Similarly, we have tried in many places for this in place of rice straw, because what is being exported from here we don't get easily here. So we tried using the sawdust and wood rejects also, but all are working as a mulching material. Even the dry grass and all, I also tried to make it with the plantation festival. You can see the energy of the young people in the plantation. We could feel. One person in this method, after they can easily plant up to 100 saplings also in a very short time. So these are all developed forests in various pockets in Assam and Meghalaya. We try to measure the growth also. This picture is the same area how in a period of 2 years itself you can see that the plants are grown. This is a difficult limestone mining area in Meghalaya. We tried. Finally, it mixed with the natural forest background. Like this, in many places, taking the help of school children, college children, we tried this here. And everywhere, we can see a dense pocket of dense forest. In almost around 40-50 pockets we have done this one. And in India, in other places also, we visited the Ekta Nagar, where that Ekta Nagar in Gujarat, there also it is, you can see Miyawaki forest. It is being implemented now in various parts of the country. This forest background is the true plantation only. And it is grown in a period of say around 8-9 years. You can see forest. Again, this may be the best technique in an industrial premise to along the whole road where dusty materials are carried, but we can maintain, like in resort, we can make a plantation also. So almost 10 lakhs of native saplings have been planted. And I always tell people that how a training program can be successful. Even I was the lucky person to get trained by Miyawaki himself, but I could, in the last 10 years, almost 1 million tree I could plant it in various pockets. Almost 40 pockets in Assam and Meghalaya. So this is how Miyawaki method works. And in many places, again I repeat, in many places, in many towns under what my previous speakers, she told about the implementation of National Clean Air Program in 131 cities in India. So in many cities, this Miyawaki plantation is being tried for urban afforestation, because it not only reduces dust pollution, it can reduce noise pollution also, and scenic beauty is developed. And theme motto of this one, plantation, not a planting a tree, but planting a forest. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Shantanu. So, Dr. Shantanu has highlighted the history of evolution of the environmental laws in our country based on the international conventions. This gives us some time to think why suddenly environmental laws and implementation has gained importance. It is mainly because the population has been growing. However, the natural resources have remained finite, always. That is the main reason why pressure is now more on the environment, as we have a larger population to feed. If left undisturbed, now also I think the nature has potential to heal its own self. As we have seen recently in the corona times when there was a lockdown. But this is no long-term solution. So we need to change our habits. In fact, instead of going for corrective measures after damage has been done, we need to incorporate the mitigation measures in the development plans itself, so that the development works can be taken up in a more responsible manner, causing least damage, which nature is able to heal on its own. So, before we begin the panel discussion, let me just throw some light on the organization structures in place to tackle this environment pollution and environment mitigation, and to take action or corrective measures on the violations. In the state of Mizoram, we have the Department of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. But the jurisdiction of environment and environment laws, it exceeds the department's mandate. For tackling the matters of environment, we have the Mizoram Pollution Control Board under the aegis of the Environment, Forest and Climate Change Department. The Mizoram Pollution Control Board is empowered to take action on the violations, as we have also heard in one of the presentations that they have fined the NHIDCL for a sum of 5 crore something for violating the norms, which case is still under process. Then there is a separate authorities and committees to evaluate the development proposals and give clearances from environmental angle. If found appropriate that all the corrective measures have been included, the environment clearance is granted by the State Environment Impact Assessment Authority. I am the member secretary of that authority. When any development project needs to apply for a consent to establish or a consent to operate, they need to apply for the environment clearance as well in a format. The application is made to the State Environment Impact Assessment Authority, which refers this proposal to the expert committee for examining the technicalities of mitigation measures which have been proposed along with the proposal in the form of an environment impact assessment report. So now our mitigation measures have become more and more technical by involving specialized agencies to prepare documents so that we are able to touch upon all the damages possible which a development work can take up, and prescribe the mitigation measures at the beginning itself for the agencies to take care that no negative impact per se is there when the development work is executed. So with this, now I will request the panelists to discuss two major issues. We have the panelists from Mizoram Pollution Control Board and the Mizoram Bar Association and Aizawl Municipal Corporation, right? So I would request them to discuss that as a stakeholder, what is the role of your organization in protection of environment? And what are the policy initiatives that you as a department or as an organization feel are required to further streamline or strengthen the protection efforts in the current scenario? Whether they are sufficient, whether they need to be more strengthened, and if yes, then what manner? So I would request first AMC to start.
Good afternoon again. Actually, I have already mentioned regarding the portfolio that I am into in the municipalities, but as ma'am has asked what is the role and the policies that has been involved. So I would like to say that municipal as a urban local body, we have some of the subjects which concerns environmental directly and indirectly. So right now we are having the subjects of solid waste management, then plastic waste management, and C&D disposal, construction and demolitions, waste management rules, and muck disposal. So first of all, the municipalities also have the Aizawl Municipal Corporation Solid Waste Management Bylaws 2019, which are all available in the website. Then Aizawl Municipal Corporation Plastic Waste Management Rules. Then we also have, is under process for muck disposal regulations, which is still in a pipeline. So what are the challenges that we face, let's say, in a very brief manner? First of all, I would say that as stakeholders also, and we have a very less resource in terms of manpower as well as finance, and it's very limited. But somehow we have been trying to meet with all the regulations as far as possible at our own capacity, so that we can at least get exempted from getting penalized. So I was discussing with the pollution control board officers also out there, and I was saying that yes, we know the rules and regulations, but the thing is, being the implementing body, we face lots of challenges. Likewise, I have said, we do not have the expertise as such to monitor even for the landfill in the beginning. So after we started having more connections with the MPCBs, we get to know whom we can engage people to do the monitoring. For example, for the landfill site there in Tuirial, which is actually not in use right now, but we are hoping to use that from the month of March, hopefully. So also we have, I'll just talk brief more on the solid waste. We are dealing as such as segregation of waste. We have these local councils. You may know that they are the another elected local bodies who deals with the grassroots level of the local community. So we give them seminars or workshops on how we have to segregate waste as dry and wet. So, secondly, in the municipalities, we have an environmental cell which was established in the year 2023, which comprises of from members from the Pollution Control Board and from even from the EFCC and then from the Mizoram University of the Environmental Department. So we sit regular once in a month discussing about what is happening in the scenario and how to mitigate or take precautions, etc. With the Tuirial Center, that Solid Waste Management Center, particularly. And the local councils are given directly from the municipality how to segregate, and when they collect the waste, it should not be mixed and all this thing. But likewise, this is a very difficult thing because it depends on an individual. An individual cannot be, directly caught or directly seen like who is, mixing the waste. But we are trying our level best that the waste be segregated as wet and dry. And so likewise, another, how do I say, where we lack is the capacity building for officials as well as the stakeholder directly or indirectly. And at the same time, even though we have a lesser, knowledge about it, we try to boost the citizens of the municipalities by giving incentive drawn kind of activities during the celebrations, like to recognize them, so that this will affect the other people also to understand the importance of even just the segregation of waste. Then we have events where we try to put it as a garbage-free celebration. Soon we will be having another program, ISOL Day 2026, which we are trying to put it as a garbage-free events where we will try to put color-coded dustbins and not to use plastic. Single-use plastics would be highly, not allowed. And then similarly, penalizing is where we have been, thinking like if we can penalize a defaulter, that could take more awareness. But when to penalize, as you know, we have to have evidences. And getting these evidences is very difficult. If at all we get evidences, of course we have, as per the Act of Municipality Act 2015 and amended 2015, we have the power to penalize 5,000 rupees as such. So we will try to do in that manner. So I hope that covers most of what I have been asked to. So thank you.
Hello, good afternoon everyone. I'm from Pollution Control Board, so I would like to give a brief account of what we are doing at the Pollution Control Board. So as we have heard from the presentation, there are several environmental legislation like the Air Act, Water Act, and Environment Protection Act. And under Environment Protection Act also there are several rules. So we are the authority which is implementing the provisions of all these enactments. Under Air and Water Acts, we are the authority who is liable to grant consent for establishment and for operation of an industry. And the Act has also certain penalty provisions. It ranges between 10,000 to 15 lakhs. And if non-compliance continues, it counts 10,000 rupees per day. And especially for this consent, if a person or if an industry fails to obtain prior consent from the board or establish without getting consent from the board. The penalty is much more than other provisions of the Act. It may extend up to rupees 50 lakhs. So this provision, section 25 and 26 of the Water Act, 21 and 22 of the Air Act is very crucial for all the industries, because the reason being they are the ones which are liable to discharge wastewater or discharge emissions into the air, thus polluting the environment. So they are the most targeted stakeholders under the Air and Water Act. So whenever a consent application comes, the methodology is to have a site inspection, like to see where there is any water bodies nearby which could get polluted from the activities of that industry, and scrutinization of the application, whether it is completed in all forms, and review of the inspection report, and grant or refusal of the consent. So there are other waste management rules also under that. After getting the consent, they have to have the authorization or registration depending upon the nature of the industry or the waste so produced. So like we have biomedical waste management rules, and it's all for the hospitals. They have to have authorization from the Pollution Control Board, and non-bedded and bedded hospitals. There are two types, bedded and non-bedded hospitals, and with the financial assistance from the Ministry of EF&CC and with the coordination from the ISO Smart City, there is a common facility for creating biomedical waste management at Durial, near Solid Waste Management Center, where all the waste from Aizawl, Saitwal district, are being managed at this point of time. So, like, instead of having its own captive treatment facility in each hospitals, these hospital waste are being treated in a safe manner now. So the role of the PCB is to monitor whether this facility is complying with all the standards which is being prescribed by the central acts and rules. So we do monitor these facilities. Off and on we visit, and each visit has an inspection report and take actions accordingly. If there is some non-compliance, we will follow up with the project proponent. And for solid waste management also, there is, as my colleague has pointed out just now, there is a solid waste management facility at Durial that is under the solid waste management rules. So the solid waste are to be handled, managed as per the SWM rules, and our duty is to monitor whether the AMC or any other party which is contracted to by the AMC to see if there is non-compliance. So we, during a year, we visit 2 to 3 times and have an inspection report, and if there is something which is unusual or not up to the expectations of the board by the provisions of the rule, we follow up with the AMC or other authorities concerned. And we also conduct public hearing under the EIA notification. Some big developmental projects, before getting the consent, they need to have environmental clearance, as our ma'am has pointed out just before. And for this, there are several steps to get the environmental clearance. So for that, public hearing is one of the most important stages, wherein the Pollution Control Board is to conduct the gathering to obtain the views of the affected people. So we have about 14